everyone, welcome back to Lone Star Mountaineer. Today we're going to be canning our garden green beans. We just got done with a really good harvest. We ended up picking somewhere around 120 to 130 pounds of beans. Ended up canning about 115 quarts in total, so that's been a pretty good year. And today's video we're going to go through step by step and kind of give a how-to to start out with canning your garden green beans. So once you've got them all picked, start off, you break the end off of where it was connected to the plant. That gets tossed off to the side and the chickens will eat that. I also like to pick off the end. There's varying size, but I don't like to take those. So those get cut off, and then we just break them down into bite-sized pieces. They'll get a little smaller once you run them through the pressure canner. So we're going to go through that and get the rest of these beans snapped up. Now that we've got all of our green beans snapped and they've been washed well, we're going to start filling our jars. And we like to take and shake them down a little bit as we're going along to make sure it fills in all the empty spaces. And we'll go through and repeat this process for every jar. Now you want to make sure that when you're filling them, you're leaving the appropriate amount of head space. So that could go a little bit more. And that's probably just about perfect. I like to try to bring it up with the green beans right to the ring, just shortly below it. You don't want to be up into the threaded section of the jar. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our Morton Season All, and we're going to go through and we're going to add a tablespoon to each jar. And we just pour it in right on top. You're welcome to skip this step. Anybody that's sodium sensitive, you can do that. If you want to add other powdered seasonings, you can add those as well at this time. I don't suggest using onions or garlic or anything of that nature at this point because it would change the pressure canning requirements, at least following USDA's guidelines. Jars are filled, seasoned. Now we're going to add liquid in. So we're going to fill these up right to just the bottom ring. So the jars are filled. First thing we're going to do is wipe off the mouth of each jar to make sure it's nice and clean. You can use a little bit of vinegar in this step on your paper towel, but it needs to be just damp with vinegar. You don't want it to be saturated and dripping because you don't want it going down into your green beans or down the side of the jar. All we're doing is just sterilizing the mouth of the jar from the seasoning green beans being put in to make sure that it's good to go. Now the next step, we're going to take our lids and put them on. I know traditionally people used to warm their lids up in a pot of warm water. We in fact used to do that ourselves until last year. Ball made the announcement that the lids don't have to be heated anymore. They changed their gasket recipe, something to that extent. So we stopped doing it and we've had really good success without it. Put the rings on. When they say finger tight, they mean just snug. It doesn't have to have, basically if you can freehand it in the jar twist, that's pretty much about snug enough for the ring. It's just holding it in place while it goes through the pressure canning process. So if you snug it down too much, what you'll see is the corner of the lip here will fold up because that's the pressure forcing its way up out of the jar. And it'll ruin your lid and you won't get a good seal. So just put them on and three finger twist and just to where it stops, and that's plenty snug enough. Now that we've got the jars filled up, ringed, lidded, ready to rock and roll, I've already got my canner going, a little bit of warm water. Just heating that up, so now we're gonna start putting our jars in. All right, jars are all loaded into the canner. Got the canner filled up with water. It's just a little bit below the ring of the jar. This is a little bit on the high side, but it'll still be okay. With pressure canning, you don't have to submerge the jars like you do when you're doing a hot water bath. So, stove's cranked up to high. Gonna let the water start warming up, and then we're gonna get our lid put on. Lid's been locked onto the steamer now, and we're gonna wait until we get a good steady stream of steam coming out of our relief valve, and then we'll take and put our shaker weight on. This is a multi-piece, so it's got rings that come on and off. So I got this one set for 10 pounds. Our goal is going to be about 11 pounds to run the pressure canner at. So we've been heating our water up. It's finally starting to hiss and bubble inside. We can hear it pretty good. Once it comes up and starts actually building temperature, this little tab right there will actually pop up, and that's a locking mechanism that prevents the top of the canner from being removed while there's excess pressure in it. You never want to do any type of rapid decompression with these because it can cause your jars to crack and explode. It can also cause the canner to pop, which can cause a lot of personal and property damage. And here you can hear the canner starting to gurgle. We're starting to get a little bit of hissing out of our pressure relief spot. So here in a few moments, we're going to see the safety latch pop up into place. All right, now that our safety has popped up, we've got enough pressure built up inside. We're getting a better stream of steam coming out of the top of our pressure relief valve. So at this time, I'm going to take and put my shaker cap on. And we're going to watch the pressure gauge start to build up. We're looking for 11 pounds of pressure. Once we reach to that 11-pound pressure mark, we're going to set a timer for 25 minutes. Alright, we are just about all bled off. Notice our safety is still sticking up. My dad used to do this. That does not mean I encourage anybody else to do it. Just gently lift. You don't want to knock this off. There's not much pressure left, so it's not too big of a risk now, but after you're done your canning cycle, if you rapidly depressurize the canner, you can crack your jars. So I'm just gently lifting up a little bit of pressure. Now that our jars are coming out, I'm I'm going to gently just carry them over. Make sure that when you're picking your jars up, you got a good grip on them with these, and you don't want to be up on the lid. You want to get down and around. And there you can see how loose that lid got from while we were canning from the heat. But the ring is loose, but the lid's still nice and sealed tight. And that's another one. They work themselves loose as they're being cooked, and then they'll seal up once the contents start to cool and try to draw air in. So here we are, about 24 hours after we finished canning our jars. We leave them sit after they come out of the canner and let them cool completely down. Once they're confirmed sealed, then we migrate them upstairs to our storage area. Usually you want to keep them in a cool and dark environment. We don't have a cellar here, so this is where they get stored at. We appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks and have a great day.